The autumn rain drummed against the windows of the Charlotte Community Center as Stephen Curry adjusted his Warriors cap and checked his watch. He'd arrived early for the youth basketball clinic, wanting to personally greet every kid who showed up. "Mr. Curry! Mr. Curry!" A group of middle schoolers rushed toward him, their eyes wide with excitement. "Hey there, future champions," Stephen grinned. "Ready to work on those jump shots?" As he high-fived each kid, Stephen noticed a man standing alone near the entrance. The figure seemed oddly familiar, tall, broad shoulders, with the worn look of someone who'd lived a hard life. When their eyes met across the gymnasium, Stephen felt a chill run down his spine. It was Marcus Thompson, his middle school bully. Memories flooded back. 7th grade at West Charlotte Middle School. The daily torment that had made Stephen dread lunch periods and hallway walks. Marcus shoving him into lockers, knocking his books down, sneering, "Still think you're gonna make it to the NBA, pipsqueak?" Now, 20 years later, Marcus looked different. Stress lines around his eyes, clothes worn but clean, shoulders stooped with the weight of hard living. "Marcus Thompson," Stephen said quietly as he approached. "Hey, Stephen," Marcus replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know if you'd remember me." "I remember everything." Marcus's hands trembled as he pulled them from his pockets. "I brought my son here today. Tommy. He's 12, and he's been having trouble at school, getting picked on. I thought maybe you could talk to him." A small boy appeared at Marcus's side, thin, about Stephen's size at that age, with hope in his eyes, despite looking like he was trying to be braver than he felt. "Dad, is that really him?" Tommy whispered, staring at Stephen with pure awe. Stephen crouched to the boy's level. "Hey there, Tommy. Your dad tells me you love basketball. I watched every game of the playoffs. That three-pointer against the Lakers was amazing." "You know what was really amazing? The practice. Thousands of shots, day after day. That's where the real magic happens." Stephen stood and caught Marcus watching with desperate hope mixed with shame. "Listen, Marcus, we need to talk, but first let me work with these kids, Tommy included." He paused. "Why don't you stick around? Help out if you want." The offer clearly caught Marcus off guard. You'd want my help? Every kid deserves a chance to get better at something they love. That includes your son." As the clinic progressed, Stephen observed Marcus with the children. The man was gentle, encouraging, nothing like the person Stephen remembered. When Tommy struggled with his shooting form, Marcus patiently helped adjust his son's stance, his voice soft and supportive. The rain continued outside, but inside the gymnasium, something unexpected was beginning to unfold. An hour after the clinic ended, Stephen found himself still in the gymnasium with Marcus and Tommy. Most kids had left, and Tommy was in the corner practicing, completely absorbed in perfecting his form. "He's got good determination," Stephen observed. Marcus nodded, pride evident in his face. "Practices every day in our driveway. Got an old hoop from a yard sale." "You said Tommy's having trouble at school." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Yeah, there's this group of older kids. They do to him what I—" He stopped abruptly. "What you did to me," Stephen finished quietly. Marcus flinched. "Every day I watch my son go through what I put you through, and every day I hate myself a little more for it." "Why?" Stephen asked simply. "Why did you do it?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. "My dad was military. Everything had to be perfect, had to be tough. If I came home with a scraped knee, he'd say real men don't cry. If my grades weren't perfect, I'd get the belt." Marcus shuddered. "I was getting picked on too, by high school kids who'd corner me after school. I felt so powerless, so angry. When I saw you, smaller than me, I guess I took out all that frustration because it was the only time I felt like I had control." "That doesn't excuse it," Stephen said firmly. "No, it doesn't. Nothing excuses what I did. I was a coward who hurt an innocent kid because I was too weak to deal with my own problems." Tommy jogged over, having finished his practice. "Dad, can we go home? I'm getting hungry." "Mr. Curry, thank you for helping me today," Tommy said earnestly. "Do you think if I practice every day, I might get good enough for high school?" Stephen smiled. Tommy, if you keep working hard and never give up, there's no limit to what you can achieve. But remember, being good at basketball is just one part of being a good person. The most important thing is how you treat others. My dad always tells me that too. He says being kind is more important than being strong. Stephen glanced at Marcus, who was watching his son with intense love and pride. Your dad's a smart man, Stephen said. As Tommy ran to get his jacket, Marcus turned to Stephen with desperation in his eyes. I know I have no right to ask, but could you maybe talk to Tommy about standing up to bullies without becoming one? I'm trying to teach him, but I feel like such a hypocrite. What happened to your dad? Stephen asked. Died when I was 19. Liver failure from drinking. I spent years angry at him, then years trying to prove I wasn't like him. But sometimes I catch myself raising my voice at Tommy, and I hear my father's words, and I hate myself for it. But you stop yourself. Yeah, I do. Every time. Because I look at Tommy and see you at that age, and I remember how scared you looked, and I never want my son to look at anyone that way. Where do you work now? Marcus looked embarrassed. I don't. Got laid off 6 months ago. Been doing odd jobs when I can find them. As they prepared to leave, Marcus turned to Stephen one more time. Would you give me your number? For Tommy, in case he needs someone to talk to about the bullying. Stephen pulled out his phone. Yeah, I can do that. But Marcus, I'm doing this for Tommy. And because I believe people can change. But this isn't going to be easy for any of us. I understand. And Stephen, thank you. As Stephen watched them walk away into the rain, he felt a complex mix of emotions. His phone buzzed with a text from Aisha. How did the clinic go? Stephen smiled as he typed back, on my way home, and honey, I have quite a story to tell you. 3 weeks later, Stephen sat in a worn diner on Charlotte's outskirts, waiting for Marcus. The man had called with urgency in his voice, asking to meet about something important. Marcus looked even more haggard than before. Bloodshot eyes, wrinkled clothes, a desperate quality that put Stephen on alert. Thanks for coming, Marcus said as Stephen slid into the booth. I wasn't sure you would. What's going on? Marcus? Marcus's hands shook as he reached for his coffee. I got arrested last Friday night. Bar fight. Some guy was running his mouth about people on unemployment being lazy deadbeats. Said something about his tax dollars feeding bastard kids. And I lost it. Stephen's stomach dropped. Marcus, I threw the first punch. Spent the weekend in jail. Got a court date next month. My lawyer says I'm looking at possible jail time. Marcus's voice cracked. It gets worse. Child Services. Came by yesterday. They're opening an investigation. If I go to jail, Tommy might end up in foster care. Through the window, Stephen could see Tommy sitting in an old Honda, reading a book by the dome light. Tommy doesn't know yet, Marcus continued, tears forming. How do you tell a 12-year-old his dad might go to jail? That he might lose his home? What do you need from me? I need a character witness. Someone who can tell the court I'm trying to be a good father. I know it's crazy. Asking you, but you're the only person who's seen me with Tommy, who knows I'm trying to do right by him. Stephen stared at Marcus, seeing not the teenage bully, but a desperate father terrified of losing his son. You want me to vouch for your character. The same character that led you to torment me for years, then start a bar fight that could cost you your son. I know how it sounds, but Stephen, if they take Tommy, he'll end up in the system. Do you know what happens to kids like him in foster care? Kids who are already targets? The thought of sweet Tommy facing systematic abuse was unbearable. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to tell them about the father you've seen these past weeks. The man who drives across town so his son can get help with basketball. I know I screwed up, but I love that boy more than my own life. Stephen looked at Tommy again, practicing basketball moves in the car's confined space. The bullying at Tommy's school got worse since my arrest, Marcus added quietly. Yesterday he came home with a black eye. This kid told him everyone knows his dad's going to jail, that Tommy's going to end up with all the other unwanted kids. Stephen felt protective anger surge through him, not for himself, but for Tommy. If I do this, Stephen said carefully, what's your plan? How do you change so we're not back here in 6 months? Marcus straightened. I've been going to AA meetings for accountability. I'm looking into anger management classes. And I got a lead on steady work with benefits in Gastonia. Stephen sat back, mind racing. Logic said this was a mistake, but another part, the part that remembered being 12 and powerless, couldn't stop thinking about Tommy. I need time to think. Marcus nodded, disappointment clear. I understand. You've already done more than we had any right to expect. As they left, Tommy rolled down the car window. Mr. Curry, did you tell Dad about my jump shot? I've been practicing every day. That's great, Tommy. Keep working hard. I will. Dad says hard work pays off even when things seem impossible. Stephen glanced at Marcus, who watched his son with fierce love. Driving home, Stephen knew the hardest decision was still ahead. The Charlotte courthouse buzzed with activity as Stephen sat outside courtroom 3B, reviewing his testimony notes. It had been the most difficult decision of his life, but he was here. Marcus sat down the hall in a borrowed suit next to his public defender, while Tommy stayed with a neighbor, shielded from the proceedings. Stephen Curry? A tired-looking woman approached. Marcus's lawyer, Jennifer Hayes. The prosecutor is going to be tough. They'll question why someone of your stature would vouch for someone with his history. Let them, Stephen said firmly. I know why I'm here. 20 minutes later, Stephen was sworn in, the courtroom packed with media and onlookers. State your name for the record. Stephen Curry. How do you know the defendant? Stephen took a deep breath. Marcus and I went to middle school together. He was 2 grades ahead of me. And what was your relationship? Marcus bullied me. For about 2 years, he made my school life very difficult. He would push me, knock my books down, call me names. Murmurs filled the courtroom. Marcus's head was down, shoulders shaking. When did you next encounter Mr. Thompson? 6 weeks ago at a youth basketball clinic. Marcus approached me with his 12-year-old son asking for help with basketball and dealing with bullies. How did that make you feel? At first angry and confused. But watching Marcus with his son, I saw something unexpected. A father who loved his child deeply and was trying to do right by him. Did Mr. Thompson apologize? Yes. He took full responsibility and made no excuses. In your opinion, does Mr. Thompson pose a danger to his child? Absolutely not. Marcus made a serious mistake, but that doesn't make him a bad father. If we removed every child from every parent who ever made a mistake, we'd have too many children in foster care unnecessarily. The prosecutor's cross-examination was brutal, suggesting Stephen was being manipulated or seeking publicity. But Stephen remained consistent. People could change, and Tommy's future mattered more than past grievances. After other character witnesses testified, Judge Patricia Williams called for sentencing. Mr. Thompson, you've pleaded guilty to assault. However, this court has heard compelling testimony about your character as a father. I'm sentencing you to 6 months probation, 100 hours community service, and mandatory anger management classes. Relief flooded the courtroom. No jail time. However, this is your second chance and likely your last. Any future violent offense will result in maximum sentencing. After the courtroom emptied, Stephen found Marcus and his lawyer in a conference room. What I'm about to say will sound crazy, Stephen began, but I've been thinking about this for weeks. He pulled out his phone, showing them something he'd been working on. I want to start a foundation, the Second Chances Foundation. Support for families dealing with bullying, kids being bullied, and parents trying to break cycles. Counseling, mentorship, job training. Marcus stared in shock. You want to start a foundation because of us? Because of thousands of families like yours. You're not the only former bully trying to be a better father. Tommy's not the only kid getting picked on because his family isn't perfect. Stephen's voice grew passionate. I want you to be part of it. Help me design programs for fathers struggling with anger, trying to break generational patterns. Share your story with other men who might be where you were. You want me to work with you? Marcus whispered. This foundation needs people who understand from the inside. You've lived both sides, the bully and the father of someone being bullied. That's exactly the perspective we need. Marcus was crying, tears of hope, rather than desperation. "Why would you do this after everything I did?" Stephen smiled. "Because someone once told me being kind is more important than being strong. And because Tommy deserves a world where kids like him don't have to be afraid." Stephen stood and extended his hand. "What do you say, partner?" Marcus looked at the offered hand. The same hand he'd once caused to shake with fear. Now it was being offered in partnership, forgiveness, and hope. Marcus took Stephen's hand and shook it firmly. "Let's change some lives." 6 months later, the Second Chances Foundation's first basketball camp was in full swing at the Charlotte Community Center. 50 kids participated. Some bullied, some bullies. All learning basketball was just part of becoming better people. Stephen watched Marcus work with younger kids, teaching conflict resolution alongside dribbling. Tommy was there too, confident and happy, helping newer kids feel welcome. "Dad, look!" Tommy called, making a perfect jump shot. "I've been practicing every day." "That's what happens when you work hard and never give up," Marcus called back, pride evident. Aisha appeared beside Stephen. "When you first told me about this situation, I thought you might be crazy." "And now?" Stephen asked. "Still crazy, but the good kind. The kind that changes the world one person at a time." Stephen nodded, watching Marcus help a shy 8-year-old build confidence. The man who'd once tormented him was now helping heal others. "You know the best part?" Stephen said. "What's that?" "Tommy will never wonder if his father believes in second chances. He's living proof that people can change." Marcus caught Stephen's eye and nodded. Gratitude, respect, and partnership in one gesture. The Second Chances Foundation had already helped dozens of families navigate bullying, provided job training for struggling fathers, and created safe spaces for kids to learn their circumstances didn't define their futures. As Stephen watched the kids play, he thought about the scared boy he'd once been. That boy could never have imagined this moment, this partnership, this proof that forgiveness could create ripples of positive change. Sometimes the most unthinkable thing was exactly what the world needed most.